kind enough to join us in
Danny,
studio now.
Matthew, that was a hell of an introduction. My goodness, you did better than the Hall of Fame did. For crying out loud.
That's Chris Tannehill, our sound guy. He's
Good job.
the best in the business, sir.
Excellent. You use every combination you can come up with, even a little first take there at the end. Molly Quorum. That's a great job.
So how was it at the Hall of Fame? Was Joe Morgan there in a suit in the back, and Bob Feller and Koufax and all these
Hall
people?
of Fame, man. Not
so close.
Oh, we got
So
that wrong.
close.
Maybe a little longer than that Hall of Fame. It was a lot of speeches. I mean, you got 10 people up there doing speeches, but listen, you get into the Hall of Fame, you get into the Hall of Fame. I had it written out. It was they tell you 5 minutes, 8 minutes, so I had it written out. You got a lot of people, so I didn't want to go too long. Plus, I used Stephen A. to do the induction, and somebody told me that, that's videotaped. And so somebody told me that he went about 3-4 minutes. So I figured, geez, if I go 10 and he got 15, it's too long. But as we begin, and I was 6 out of 10. As you begin, everybody took...
That's a bad job by them.
Right in the middle.
Close with the dog.
Well, I tell you, poor Susan Waldman, she left and the place was empty. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. They were serving breakfast, for crying out loud. But anyway, I went 6, but as we went along, I said, you know what? I had 3 tables here who traveled a long way to see this. I got to give them more than 5 minutes. So I basically used a little speech that I've been working on for essentially 2 weeks, and I used it as a boundary. And I centered on the 5 career stops, whether they be WEXI in Jacksonville, WKIS in Orlando, MCA in New York, FAN, and Sirius. And I put together, some storylines with those 5. Thank the right people. If you don't thank the missus, you're dead. So I made sure that was taken care of. And my parents, my father's passed away, my mother's still alive. So from that standpoint, I made it a 17-minute ad-lib deal, which I thought was reasonable. Throw in the 4 minutes of Stephen A. So I got out of there in 21, 22 minutes. Not terrible.
Now, how did Stephen A. feel about being at least your second choice? Because didn't you ask Howard Stern to...
That was a long time ago. And Howard, I didn't ask him after I got in. I asked Howard before.
Before you got in.
A couple different times, and I knew that Howard would never do it. And Stephen A. was, I thought, I've had this little renaissance, in the last year or so. I had the first take thing. Howard's been on there a couple of times, so I've had a little renaissance. So that's why I think he represents that more than anybody else with his first take. That's why I asked him to do it.
It doesn't feel like a renaissance. I don't feel like you ever left. I mean, I know that you got the show on MLB Network, obviously, but dog, you're a legend. I'm one of those people who grew up listening to you and Mike. We all did.
I went to college in upstate New York at Syracuse.
Oh, so perfect. You wouldn't be on top of that.
Listen to you, Yes Network, the whole thing.
Yep, I grew up in Central Jersey and have these same conversations with Dave Sims when the Mariners are in town, about the early days of the Fan and everything. But you felt like you went away.
Yeah, well, I don't, I think when you go sometimes, at least in the early days, when you go to Sirius XM after 19 years of being recognized at every gas station, deli, restaurant in, the tri-state area, 20 million people, trains, subways, and all of a sudden you go to Sirius XM, not everybody has Sirius XM, especially in 2008. Our stock was at 1 penny, for crying out loud.
We know what that's like.
Yeah. So we were struggling. So from that standpoint, you do feel like you're doing a show in a little bit of a vacuum. So as a result of that, went over my head, by the way.
Odyssey's stock price is going to bounce back any minute now,
the
Chris.
stock's gone down a little bit?
A little bit. Yeah, Speaks looked at me like I had just told a third rail joke there. We'll be fine.
That's what they told me. And it turned out that we would be right. John Malone of Liberty Media, they sort of, with Mel Karmazin, they put the stock back on the shelf again, and away we went. So you did feel a little bit like, boy, oh boy, here it is. I left 66 WFAN in New York with all these teams, and now I'm on a Sirius platform 5 hours a day trying to build a channel. You do feel like maybe you're doing a show in a vacuum. That's what that means, the obscure thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you heard in that intro, Letterman and Stern.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's unbelievable. 30 appearances on the Letterman
37.
show. 37, and a few now on Stern. I mean, this is top.
Six on Stern.
This is the top of the mountaintop. Does that still get the juices flowing for you?
Oh, absolutely.
It does?
And we did a tribute show last week, for 2 hours. And you know who called at 5 o'clock?
No.
Letterman.
Really?
And he did a 7-minute gig. He did a joke. Can you pass the fresco over here? I'm talking to some guy who's in the Hall of Fame with a straw, things like that. So He came on last week at 5. Howard would not do that. You know Howard.
Yeah.
But Letterman did. Yeah, 30. They're very similar in a lot of ways. Dave's probably a little quirkier than Howard. Howard, the Springsteen thing he did last week. Did you guys hear about this?
Yeah.
No,
He just did it 2 days ago.
A couple hours
2
in
hours
studio.
and 10, 15 minutes. I didn't hear it yet. He did it on Monday. But they're both very, very quirky. Dave's a little more quirky, but as far as their interviewing technique, it's fascinating the way they both do it. Now, Dave is only 10 minutes at a time. While you're talking to Howard, you're on there for a long period of time. But the best Letterman story I ever give you, it's a good one. In 03, I got on there for the first time in 91. In 03, I had a book out. All right, and I did my media stuff and everything, and I did Dave. I went in whatever it might be, and you have to, it's 4:30 the tape, so you got to take off FAN, and I got bumped by Courtney Love.
Oh man!
Came back 2 weeks later. I was on the third spot. Came back, he's got that third spot, and if he takes the second spot too long, the third guy's going to get bumped. Came back 2 weeks later, and I got bumped by Demi Moore.
Courtney Love from Hole and Demi Moore.
Yeah, the 2 in a row. So, it happens. It's national talk radio, national shows. I'm driving to work. A week or so later, I get a phone call. It's Dave apologizing for the fact that he didn't get me on 2 times in a row. And he said, listen, if you can forgive me, I'd love to have you back. And I said, Dave, what are you, crazy? Of course. Next time I go back for the next 20 years.
What'd you get bumped for?
No, didn't get bumped. He always put me as the second spot.
Wow.
Which means you kept over after the segment, after the commercial.
Respect.
Third spot, you always only got 6-7 minutes before the musical guest.
Yeah, sure.
The second spot, you're on at midnight, and he keeps you on through a break.
Well, Dave probably wanted to talk to you more than he wanted to talk to Courtney Love.
Possibly,
right? He probably liked you.
But I think he did that out of the fact that he felt bad, and he was not going to let. And that's a hell of a nice gesture.
Absolutely.
And I brought that up last week when he called. He didn't want to hear it because I wanted to make sure people knew that story because that's a nice story. And he didn't want to hear it because he kind of overshadowed it. But he did call. That's another sign of respect. David 505 last week calling up.
Unbelievable.
A radio show.
That is
unbelievable.
amazing. So you and Mike Francesa, 19 years? 19 years together. So
we've done most of 6.
Right, but it's like you guys had a mix and a magic that was combustible but held together, and as long as it could hold together, it was freaking magic. It's like the Police, where Stuart Copeland hated Sting.
Oh, is that true? I didn't even know that.
God, they hated each other. Or Billy Martin's Yankees, right? Like you hold together just enough. Did it ever feel like that with you and Mike?
Absolutely. Look at that thing you played with the Fenway Park and Yankee Stadium thing.
Yeah.
I used that in a speech last night. But look at that. You can tell there's a lot of friction there with me. That was about building stadiums and public money. That's where that came from. But you can tell there is a lot of friction there. When you work, you guys are going to learn it. What do you do? 4 hours a day? Right?
Oh, we know.
Yeah, 4 hours a day.
Don't worry.
When you work 19 years, 5 hours a day, Monday through Friday, you're only on year 6.
He's too old to make it 19 years.
How old are you, man?
I'm 52.
52 now, and you're in the 30s, right?
Yeah, 36.
And he'll move on to 5 other things before we get to 19
exactly.
years.
Mike was 5 years older than me, but there is going to be times, and do you feel it now?
Yeah, well,
you guys have friction now?
In a good way, I think. Like we're good partners for each other. You know?
Ever not talk to each other for a couple days because you're mad?
No.
Couple hours.
Yeah, a couple hours. We'll take things home, but we try to always, 24-hour rule. You got to address it within 24 hours.
Couple weeks? You guys went a couple weeks?
Are you kidding?
They
For
went
3 months.
Yeah.
Mike and I, during a show together, did not talk to each other.
Other than the mics being on.
I did a show and he did a show. We did 2 shows at the same time and did not talk to each other. That is a true story.
Unbelievable.
It was after it was Knicks Pacers in 98, 99. And you know what got us back together again? Mike got remarried and he invited me.
Really?
He had no choice. How does he not invite his partner to his remarriage?
So is it Hugh Hollins that broke you guys? Hugh Hollins and Scottie Pippen? Is that the right year?
That's a terrible call.
Okay.
That was in 94.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
This is 4 or 5 years later with those good Knick teams who played the Pacers a lot.
Oh, sure. It's Latrell Sprewell.
Yeah, those teams. And the Pacers one year beat the Knicks and they got to the final, loss to L.A. with Kobe.
The ego in our business is crazy.
It's tough. So doing a show. And remember, that was when it was on TV. So people saw it. Because you're on Yes, made it trickier.
So we're curious. So you're in Chicago. You must have come here
I came here on Sunday. Yes.
But I mean, have you been here all the time? Do you have a favorite Chicago sports memory?
I love Chicago, and I tell you, I was just said it on my show. This is a great city, and the weather's good right now. I get that, so it makes it even better in November. But I hear a lot of sirens going off, so we all know nationally about the crime rate and all that. But this is a great city. The lake is great. Running on that lake, the river is great. The downtown architecture. This is a great town. And I have been here, I've been here a decent amount. I came here for the Wisconsin-Notre Dame game last year because I have a kid at Wisconsin, kid at Notre Dame. I came here for Knicks Bulls a lot.
Yeah,
I came here for Bulls Phoenix in the final with Jordan in '93. So I've had my share of Chicago. It's an easy flight, not too far. But I came here from Houston for the World Series, and because we had the rain out, I can't go back to Houston until I know there's a Game 6. And yet I don't know that, so I'm staying in Chicago the extra couple days.
Nice.
That's why I'm here. But I do love your city. I do love it.
So he's the baseball diehard, and I am the person that has the love-hate relationship with baseball. I was 12 years old, summer of '98. Sammy Sosa, the home run chase. I loved it. I think the game shoots itself in the foot too often, and I am really excited for next year. I am excited for
the rule changes?
Yes, for pitch clock. I liked the ghost runner, the runner on second base.
Which is going to stay, by the way.
I like the ghost runner. I want the ghost runner after a couple innings in the postseason.
Oh, you would like it then,
absolutely.
too?
All these guys
innings.
selling out for home runs for 5 innings. That's not a good way to represent the game.
I'm just curious. Are you ready for this sport to change?
I'd be very interested to see if the umpires, and I had Manfred on Friday, by the way, at Houston, and he said the umpires are going to be very vigilant about this, vigilant, and they're going to make sure that these rules get followed properly. He thought that the ghost runner is going to stay regular season for next year. The pitch clock, he's all for.
Is there anything you're not for?
I don't have a problem with anything. One thing I'm not for. I'm not in love with the balance schedule.
The balanced schedule.
Because remember, next year, there's going to be a lot of travel. So the White Sox are going to play every team at least one series, whether it's home or away, in the National League. And the Cubs are going to play every series home and away in the American League. Cubs are going to play the Brewers 12 times. Cubs are going to play the Cardinals 12 times. And, White Sox will play Cleveland 12 times, not the 18 or 19.
Are they starting
I'm not in love with.
Are they starting these games too late?
Much better here at 7:03 than 8:03.
Yeah, I know. But there was a couple years ago, there was a 9 o'clock start. It was 9 o'clock starts.
They have the postseason. See, when they have the 4 games and they have the West Coast start, that's when they put the Dodgers or San Diego on late at night because they want to get the 4 windows in. Baseball did something interesting this week. I don't know if you guys followed it. It had the rain out. And normally in the rain out situation, they'd eliminate the travel day.
They'd bang the off day.
And they didn't do it this year. And remember, they probably had to give Fox back some money or something because they now have to go up against the football with Fox on Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
Fox does not want Game 7 up against Mahomes on Sunday night. And if there's a Game 7, it's Sunday night. It would have been instead on Saturday night. So they gave up the off day because Manfred, I don't think, wanted to compromise the integrity of the 2-3-2 in the World Series. Championship Series, he'd give it up because he did a couple times in the Yankees had some rainouts. But he gave up the off day here, which was very, very interesting. So there's the off day on Friday. And then Game 6 and 7, if you go that far over the weekend. And I do think the Astros will win a game in Philadelphia. I really do think they win one.
It's amazing how much football is king. And
it's incredible. It's incredible.
Are you a believer in Fields? Are you a believer in our guy Justin Fields?
I like what I've seen the last 2 weeks. He basically, outside of the Pittsburgh game on Monday night last year, he did nothing. I like to see him throw a little bit better than running, but they've incorporated that running game. I know they get the receiver in from Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
you got to help Mooney out. It's amazing that this franchise really has not had a quarterback for 100 years, since Sid Luckman. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, I know McMahon had a great, he won a Super Bowl and he had some good years, But I mean, it is, Jack Concannon.
We got nothing.
Bobby Douglas.
Mitch Trubisky is the leader in quarterback rating for anybody who's ever started.
There's
20
another
games.
example. It is incredible.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Vince Evans. I mean, it's
us
incredible.
Us and the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, some teams don't have third basemen. Some teams don't have quarterbacks, and the Bears haven't had a quarterback. It really is hard to believe when you think about it.
Only franchise in the NFL to never have a 4,000-yard passer. Only franchise in the NFL to never have a quarterback throw for 30 touchdowns.
Wow. I didn't know either one of those. Is that true?
Yeah. Is that
well, your best quarterback is played in the 40s.
Yeah, Bears' best quarterback in my lifetime is either Jay Cutler or Eric Kramer.
So would you be offended?
Average quarterback. B minus quarterbacks.
On their best day.
You've never really had a top 10 quarterback.
Never.
I mean, it really is hard to believe that you've never had a top 10 quarterback. I'm not sure if Fields could be that.
Yeah,
but if you are, I'm sure the calls have been very positive with how he's played. The last
couple of weeks were very exciting,
and he did it against Belichick, which is a good. Belichick. You see what Belichick did against Zach Wilson?
Dominated him.
He didn't do that against Fields, which is a very good sign. And I saw the game. By the way, if you don't have DirecTV, you are dead. I mean, you had the Bears Cowboys on Sunday, and then I'm sitting here with Tennessee and Houston. Really, Tennessee and the Texans.
What about the Red Zone channel?
You don't have it in hotels.
Oh yeah,
I'm in a hotel.
Okay,
and I didn't feel like going out to a bar to watch the freaking games.
And the Red Zone, they don't let you watch it except on your phone. If you can watch it on your phone, but it's too damn small to look at.
I can't. I hate watching these games on a phone. But I mean, you may finally have a QB. Which
I think we got one.
What's people thinking about the Smith trade?
It's sad to lose a guy
I like
that
it
good.
more than he does.
Yeah. It's a linebacker town. He's a great linebacker. He's a great tackler. He's a first-round pick who's great at age 25, but they don't pay middle linebackers these days.
And he only got a second and a third-round pick, right?
Second and fifth?
Second and a fifth.
Second and a fifth. But to me, it was like, it's a luxury item. You pay quarterbacks, tackles, receivers, pass rushers, cornerbacks. Bears have no good players at any of those positions. You pay an off-ball linebacker who doesn't force fumbles, doesn't get interceptions.
Here's another example. You had Mack. How many playoff games did you win with him?
Right, and Mack's a much more impactful player than Roquan.
And Mack's, he's a mini LT.
Yeah.
And how many playoff games did you win with Mack all those years?
0. Got to 1. I guess got to 2.
You lost to Philly and the Saints.
Yeah, Philly and the Saints. Yeah,
but the Saints, you shouldn't have made the playoffs. You were 9-8.
Correct.
And Philly, you missed. You should have won the Philly game. You missed the kick. Hit the update.
Yeah.
And then he was on the Today Show 2 days later. Maybe you don't go on the Today Show after you miss a field goal. That drove me nuts. What did I get up? What was the name of the kicker?
Cody Parkey.
You
have the greatest memory.
He missed a kick and he was on a Today Show. What are you praising yourself? You missed a freaking kick.
I know.
There's a million Bear fans who can't go to work today. They're so upset for crying out loud. Oh, it's drove me crazy.
It is so crazy to have your voice right here next to us. It's
really,
daunting.
Yeah.
But because we play it all through the years. It's like you are a content factory in and of yourself. Would you be offended if you knew we played something where you sounded like a dope?
No,
but
definitely
we love
not.
it.
Definitely.
Okay,
not.
good. This is you and Mike talking about movies at one point back in the day.
Okay.
All right.
Would you go see Daredevil?
Which one is that now?
That's Ben Affleck's new movie about the guy who's a blind crime fighter who turns into Daredevil.
True story?
All right, that destroys me. The fact that you think
I screwed that one up.
It might Dog,
you weren't joking?
It's live improv. We know we sound like idiots all the time, every day. This is just what you do. But you thinking the Daredevil might have been a true story, it makes me laugh more than maybe anything in the history of radio.
That's amazing.
So
that
thank
kind
you.
of thing.
Thank you.
You go on for 5 hours a day for 19 years. There's some things you may not be so proud of. That might be one of them.
Happy to bring that back for you.
Good job, Matthew. Good job.
Yeah, that is so good.
Are the White Sox like their new manager or not?
He's a master.
So get back to sports.
Yeah.
They're happy it's not Tony La Russa.
Oh, dude, that
it's
was a
hard
mess.
hard to get excited about the Royals bench coach, but everything that he says and seems to stand
Well,
for.
he's bilingual. He's half Cuban, right?
Yep,
He
yep.
lives in Florida. You got a lot of Cuban players on your team.
Mm-hmm.
He was credited with Salvador Perez turning into what he turned into, and so the idea is hopefully that Robert and Moncada and Eloy
They were terrible this year.
that he
Oh,
can
my
maximize what they
And
are.
those guys have gotten paid, so you know what it is. You're trying to figure out whether a manager can hold people accountable. That thing where you can tell tell people what's wrong with them and that have them not want to punch you in the face
After they've been paid.
And you're right, exactly. How can you tell if you got that guy in an interview?
You can't.
It's hard.
And Rick Hahn, this is his last crack here. He gave up Tatis for Jamie Shields. This is his last. This is his last. Rick, we got to be fair. I mean, how many men? I know the
Reinsdorf don't fire anybody.
Reinsdorf hired Russo. I'm not going to blame him on that. But, Renneria was his manager. This is the last time now.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right. Then I'll have to get kicked upstairs to some other job for the next 20 years.
I mean, you haven't won. You've been here a long time. You've done some good things. This time he's got to get it done.
Well, thank you for staying with us longer than you promised to.
You guys are the best. The both of you. And I didn't realize you had the New York roots, so you go back to Mike and Amanda.
Absolutely.
1989. That's
come on. Give me a little Danny. Come on.
Radio's about you, and we travel all over the country, and there was the Super Bowl, and there were radio shows, but Radio Row did not exist.
Why you gotta bring that up, Mike? Why you gotta bring that up?
Because it's true.
You know it's a tricky subject.
The people have to know.
Now I get it.
Oh, my gosh. You are good.
It's just a little.
How long did you have it practice that?
Never. Come on. You live it. You hear it. You know it.
That is true, though. First Super Bowl in 1990, Niners and Bengals, nobody there. By 93 in Pasadena, Bills and Cowboys, the first time, there was a Radio Row.
Wow.
You guys invented Radio Row.
You did it. You invented it.
Well, it wasn't that many people that third one. It was in a little ballroom at a hotel. Not like it is today, which is ridiculous. Have you been to you go to the Super Bowl?
We've been.
Again, stock price. We want to go back. We want to go back.
Well, the Bears are not going to be in it, so you got to.
I know.
You got to have a sexy deal.
Thanks for mentioning.
Doug, enjoy the World Series. Enjoy Chicago.
Boys.
Congrats on the Hall of Fame.
Thanks for having me.
You're the best.
That's the legend, Chris Mad Dog Russo. It's Parkins Spiegel.